über Tablet Computing reden, was extrem aktuell ist mit dem gestrigen Launch vom iPad 2, wo wir uns natürlich auch darüber unterhalten werden.
Da wollte ich mich jetzt erst rantasten an das
habe ich zu viel
vorweggenommen. Schon wieder komplett vorne weggenommen. Also es geht, du bist Experte sozusagen in diesem Feld und ihr diskutiert jetzt ein bisschen über die Zukunft des Tablet Computings. Seit ein paar Jahren einfach im Gespräch, die kleinen Handgeräte vom Handy immer größer werdend, immer wieder kleiner werdend, immer leistungsfähiger werdend. Da steckt ja jetzt einiges drin, was wir vor Jahren einfach noch einen großen PC uns hinstellen mussten.
Nun, eigentlich ist es eine Geschichte, die schon mehr als eine Dekade alt ist. Vor etwas mehr als 10 Jahren hat ja Bill Gates schon angekündigt, als Microsoft ihre Tablet-PC-Strategie ausgefahren hat, dass 2004 mehr Tablets als Desktop-PCs oder Notebooks verkauft werden. Jetzt wissen wir alle, okay, das hat nicht ganz so hingehauen mit der Ankündigung. Aber allein durch den Launch von Apple, wie sie den Markt letzten Jahr mit dem iPad reanimiert haben oder sagen wir mal neu definiert haben, für den Endkunden vor allen Dingen, wo Tablets bisher überhaupt nicht präsent waren, ist natürlich das alles explodiert. Und Tablets sind natürlich das Buzzword, der große Hype und der große Trend im Moment. Und von daher lohnt es sich, glaube ich, sich da mal einfach anzuschauen, wie sich das entwickeln wird in der nächsten Zeit.
So, und wir hatten in den Vorgesprächen eigentlich den Fokus ganz stark natürlich auf diese immense Konkurrenz zu Apple gesetzt, dass wir halt über die ganzen neuen Android-Geräte hier diskutieren wollen. Hat sich das jetzt seit gestern geändert?
Ich glaube nicht.
Euer Konzept? Also wir reden weiter auch über Android, aber auch über den neuen iPad 2 und die Möglichkeiten.
Wir gehen da während des Panels sicherlich drauf ein, wie das iPad 2 oder was das iPad 2 für die Wettbewerber bedeutet und wie die sich nun positionieren müssen. Aber generell glaube ich nicht, dass sich der Markt dadurch geändert hat. Apple ist nach wie vor relativ früh da, aber im Gegensatz zum letzten Jahr, wo sie im Grunde genommen Benchmark gesetzt haben, ist das iPad 2 technisch nicht so fortschrittlich, dass sie in irgendeiner Art und Weise hier einen neuen Benchmark für die Konkurrenz setzen würden, sondern es ist eher, dass sie aufgeholt haben bzw. gleichgezogen haben von der Hardware-Seite her. Software ist eine ganz andere Geschichte.
Prima, du bist nicht alleine da, du hast ja vorhin schon angekündigt, du hast ein paar interessante Leute mitgebracht. Hol sie dir hoch auf die Bühne, ist deine Bühne.
Ja, vielen Dank. Ich habe einen ganzen Schwung Menschen mitgebracht, die ich schon seit einiger Zeit kenne. Ich fange ganz vorne an mit dem Juuso Huttunen. Den Namen kann keiner vernünftig aussprechen. Er kommt aus Finnland, aus Helsinki. Wir nennen ihn JKK, das ist weitaus einfacher. Ist der Betreiber von JKK Mobile und ist auch Teil unseres Meet Mobility Podcasts. JKK, there you go. Der nächste ist Steve Chippy Payne, ist der Betreiber von carrypad.com und umbcportal.com, auch seit mehr als einer halben Dekade in der Tablet-Welt unterwegs. Dann möchte ich ganz gerne den Rahman Asadolai von Petit, Software Company aus München, die sich stark mit Touchscreen-Devices beschäftigen. Und dann haben wir noch den Hamid Nasemann, ist der Country Manager von Qualcomm. Qualcomm, vielen bekannt, gerade im Smartphone-Bereich und natürlich auch im Tablet-Bereich, einer der größten CPU-Hersteller auf dem Markt. Oh, ich habe sogar auch einen Sitz bekommen. Wir müssen das Panel in Englisch halten, weil wir zwei Leute dabei haben, die es nicht so ganz so gut drauf haben mit dem Deutschen. Okay, Steve, du bist eingebürgert als Engländer nach Bonn. Es würde klappen, aber dann hat JKK halt ein Problem. Und von daher halten wir es auf Englisch. And what a coincidence in general. When we planned this panel about 3 months ago, we had no clue that Apple is going to launch the iPad 2 just the night before. So I think we really have the finger on the pulse tonight, or today. And of course, we need to talk about the breaking news. They launched it yesterday. And in my opinion, I'm not sure if you can confirm this, it's more like an evolution of the first generation, and it's not a revolution anymore. So in general, what's your take on the iPad 2 launch, JKK?
You know my take. I'm an Android fanboy, so for me, Apple ecosystem.
That's why I'm picking you first.
Yeah, Apple ecosystem is not for me. But for hardware design, it's great. If you want a big tablet, it's really, really nice and thin. great craftsmanship, really, really nice. But again, I'm pro mobile, so for me 7-inch is better, and I want to do what I want with my gear, so I'm with Android. So it's cool, but not for me.
Steve, it's slimmer, it's a little bit faster.
I was expecting them to go for the 1 pound, and by the way, it only weighs 1 pound, but they missed it. 1.3 pounds, so it's actually the same weight as the Galaxy Tab 10.1, right?
Right.
So I am surprised that it's not a bit lighter, I mean, it's super thin, it looks fantastic, and it really does, of course, with the iOS advances, the next generation of iOS gives you more features. So, yeah, I mean, what's not to like about it?
Ramin, are you an iPad user?
Well, I don't use the iPad. I also think that Android is going to overtake iOS in a couple of months or maybe a year or something. I think hardware-wise they were playing catch-up game, because when you look at the Motorola Zoom, for example, that's really similar hardware, so the Zoom was first. I think it's good for the industry because now Apple is there and people have to catch up hardware-wise, and we need faster devices.
Hamid, even though that there's no Snapdragon platform in the iPad 2, so what's your take on it? Are you going to buy one?
Yes, sure. I mean, we as Qualcomm, we are generally really appreciating the efforts of Apple to really develop the market. There are so many things coming up, so many tablets, and this is a new category. It's about usability, it's about for the user, the design, and so we are really appreciating this, and it's very good for the end consumer, and we are supporting it.
Now, what I said already during the introduction of this panel, I think they weren't setting the new benchmark right now when it comes to tablets. It's more like, I'm not sure, can we say it's a kind of panic reaction? How the market developed so quickly. Now we got the dual-core Cortex A9 provided by NVIDIA Tegra. We have the TIO maps. We have the new Snapdragon dual cores. They even announced quad-core engines for the end of the year. So was there the need for Apple to get a new iPad 2 immediately onto the market, and actually they can even deliver it right away? I mean, it's going to hit the shops on the 11th of March. It will be in the shops in Germany and all over Europe on the 25th of March. So, what's your take on that, Jackie K?
Yeah, I think so. Adding the cams, dual cams on that was reaction to market. People think they want cameras on the tablets, but I tell you, 10 inches on it's not that great. But they had to do that. You can see that on the presentation they were playing with the photo booth application, like 10 minutes or so. So I think it was a kind of reaction for the market. Again, I think it has some continuum on the MacBook Air line, because that's thin, that's crazy thin. So now they did the same with iPad. So yes and no. I think they're still kind of walking their own way, but they had to do something. Again, for the mobility part, it didn't bring anything, really. It's a little bit lighter, but I think it's not light enough for mobile use. And again, the thin form factor, it just makes it cooler. And also one thing is that now when you have a case around it, now it's not as bulky as the old one. So reaction, yes, but not fully. I think it's also showing their way. I think we will see even thinner products in future from them. So I think the thin is in their mind.
I mean, Steve, they were even comparing it to the iPhone 4, right? And now it's thinner, like 0.6 millimeters thinner than an iPhone 4. Is this what people are looking for in a pad?
At this stage of the game, it's a little bit one-upmanship on the stats. We're getting into this core wars now, where it used to be the performance, the top rate wars.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that. They need to do things for marketing reasons and maybe not for the user. The interesting thing is, you said evolution, not revolution. Apple actually don't need at this stage to do a revolutionary change. It's a bit like Google. They have a cupboard full of products, and they just bring out bits of them when they need to. When the market catches up, then it's, you know, turbo mode, see ya for another 6 months. And that's what they'll do again, I think, in the future. They don't need to bring in a 7 or a 5, they could do, but hey, they've got a fantastic ecosystem with what they got set up at the moment with the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad. I kind of wonder whether they'll go a little bit higher than the iPad. I still get this idea of an iOS SmartBook in my head, and how a mobile operating system could move into a productivity operating system, but that's a few years ahead now.
Well, Hamid, your tablets, or the tablets from your OEMs, are mainly based on Android, of course, because otherwise you would build the A5 processor, which is built by Samsung. Do you think that this early launch of the iPad 2, it's going to be in the market already next week, is going to hurt these launches of, let's say, Samsung Galaxy Tab and HTC Fire, where you guys are shipping out the new single-core 1.5 gigahertz Snapdragon?
No, I don't think so. I think that that Apple is an innovator machine, so they came up with the iPhone first and they developed the market for the whole industry. So this will happen, or this happened already with the iPad last year with the launch. And the market is big enough for many players. So it's not about Apple, there are other players in the market that also have a place. That's why I don't think that this is really hurting them. On the contrary, this will really be good for the whole industry as a whole. And we as Qualcomm, we are here to really enable these technologies to run as fast as possible, power efficient, with our integrated processors. We are contributing to the success stories together with our partners in the industry. So that's not really hurting them, we don't think so.
I mean, well, we actually had a tablet panel already over here last year, and Jackie Kane, you've been on this one. And at that time we were talking about how we're going to use a tablet computer in the future. There were not so many people in the audience who actually ever used a tablet. And we were kind of talking about if tablets are going to be time-saving devices or maybe even time-killing devices. And also 12 months later, how do you see the development on the market? Are you using a tablet, and what is your usage scenario for it?
Actually, when you look at the hardware that has developed on the iPad 2, they leveled the play field. So what we see now is that the Android devices, top-notch Android devices, are actually providing a hardware level where you can really use Android for also productivity. And this is also something that the gentleman from Dell told us this morning, that basically the tablet is a device that is bridging between your home consumerish kind of thing towards the business. So what you want to use the tablet for is really for your business as well as for consumption. And this is the closing gap that we see. So people want to consume media. That has happened the last year on the tablet, but more and more they also want to get productive. So to me it seems that on the software side the war is going on, and not so much on the hardware side.
Totally agree. I couldn't agree with you more, because I think the processing power is getting there now. We just need the soft. What's happened is that Google have said, okay, it's okay now to develop for tablets. Now ISVs can invest in more robust, in more rich software to move into the productivity era. I think that's where it's going to go next, because people are now able to see the future and invest more money in the software. And when that happens, it will move into the productivity space, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think the difference between last year, this year and next year, it will be that last year we saw the designs. This year we have the products and we are trying to do stuff with them. We want to do stuff, we are trying to search what we will be doing with the tablet. And next year we have a lot of software that enables us to do these things. So this year, that's the year we will be buying stuff. Next year we will be productive with this, and some of us are already, we are doing everything on these. I'm not doing everything else all with the tablet but video editing, so you can really do stuff, but it's a learning curve still. I would say this year is really buying, next year is using. Yeah.
Steve, when I got to know you like some 5 years ago, you were running CarryPad at that time, and you already had your adventures on the bike with the UMPC and MID by being completely wireless, using touchscreen devices, and to block while you're mobile. So how are you going to use a tablet right now, especially now you're a fan of the Samsung Galaxy Tab, and obviously you're not the only one over here. And
we're not sponsored by Samsung, by the way.
That's a coincidence. Oh, there you go.
Well, yeah, thank you for pointing out that CarryPad is not a name that's 6 months old. It's actually 5 years. Over 5 years ago, I started thinking about a device that would sit between a smartphone and a laptop. There were no netbooks at that time.
Right.
There were some very expensive 1 kilogram notebooks, but nothing in the middle. And so I'm really pleased to this central market, what was termed a tweener market, you know, a market with no hope, has now taken off, you know, and I like to look back occasionally through Google and look at the journalists that wrote about the tweener category and then think now how it's exploded. And it's not just about tablets, this is really a mobile operating system. It's a chassis that's allowing people to make devices quickly, and not just in the tablet space, cameras, e-readers, PMPs. Sony are now making a gaming device using the same chassis, so we say, so it's perfect. I mean, I think the car manufacturers, we need to look at those guys, because those guys are the masters of creating one chassis and enabling quick turnarounds of multiple products in multiple markets.
Actually, I have to admit that I've been making fun of you about some 5 years ago with your crazy UMPCs
lots of
for
people make fun of me.
$1,500, right? And you couldn't even use it on. Well, actually, you used it.
$1,200 with 1 kilogram weight and about 2 hours battery life.
Fantastic.
No
Awesome.
3G.
That was way before the mobile revolution. Right. So, guys, let's go back to Android and WebOS or tablet OS device, you name them. And we're taking a look at the specification. We're comparing this to the new iPad right now, even though that they're also sporting the A5 is based on Cortex A9. I'm pretty sure about that. And there's some rumors around there that the platform for it is a Samsung Orion. So it's a new PowerVR GPU in there, maybe even a quad-core. But again, spec-wise, when we're looking at, for example, an HP HP touchpad, BlackBerry Playbook, or Galaxy Tab 10.1, or Motorola Zoom, the specs are all better from the hardware side. When we compare this to the iPad 2, we have a higher resolution, we have way more I/O ports, we have 4-in-1 card readers on there, and we have way more open system for developers. Do you think that 2011, even though that Apple just claimed yesterday 2011 is going to be the year of the iPad 2, might it still be the year of the competitors, or as Apple calls them, copycats?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
You know what, guys? Could you please answer in full sentences, because otherwise we're through the panel like in 10 minutes.
Well, I think you have to think about manufacturers. At the end, the value for the customer is not only the functionality of the technology, because he doesn't care about the technology. It's also about design, about branding, and about it's cool, right?
Right.
So, but the success factor clearly is, you know, if you compare 10 years ago when we got the UMTS auctions and operators paid 50 billion euro, the time was simply not ripe for this. Now we are getting more sophisticated devices. The data tariff plans of the operators are going at a level that really people can afford it, the flat rates and so on. The speeds in the network are going towards currently 42 megabit per second, and we as Qualcomm, of course, supporting all this. And that's the reason why this device at all are successful, you know. So whether it's Apple or not, this is now a competition also in marketing and in branding also, besides the functionality that at the end it's customer choice. But clearly we have to admit that iPad or Apple has opened up these categories of iPhone and this new tablet category. So the others are followers, so we have to admit that. But this is clearly good for the whole industry.
So as a software guy, do you think that the ecosystem around the tablet platform is the key to success with the consumer?
Definitely, definitely. And when you look at the plans that Apple and Google have, they are different plans, because Apple is certainly a walled garden. They want to keep you on their platform, whereas Google is certainly interested in having a multi-vendor, multi-device platform, and this is certainly going deeper to the consumer's needs. So software-wise, you can really look at what does the consumer need, what does the professional need, and so on. And certainly with the connection to the cloud, your software connecting to your data is, I think, way more open on the Android platform and will enable many more use cases and usage scenarios than Apple's walled garden.
So you...
Yeah, I think the main thing Apple versus Android has always been and will always be the fact that yes, Apple can do stuff they do really nicely, but you can only do stuff they want you to do. Where on Android, I can do stuff I want to do. So for me, really, iOS or Windows Phone 7, they're both similar. You can do stuff really easily, but only the stuff that is allowed to do by either Microsoft or Apple, and that's not what I want to do. Many times I want more. I'm looking for the button to say more. Do this more. Settings.
You can do whatever you want to do. You just need to find the right app. And
Exactly.
No, that's not the thing. You can't do actually. You can't install PTPT to iPhone. You can't replace the whole Spring loader. You can't do that, and that's the problem. With Android, I can do it.
Is it actually going to be a problem when we're looking at the consumer market?
Not for all, no. Like my 4-year son, he enjoys it because it's really easy. But I'm not 4. I can use Android.
Right. Steve, what about you?
You said it. The customer choice is the important thing here, right? We don't want just iOS, but we don't just want just Android, right? We want iOS, Android. We need a third competitor, a fourth competitor, to help bring choice to us, the customer. And I think that's the important thing. It's going to be expensive for someone to create the third and fourth ecosystem. But I think there's a possibility for a third, maybe a fourth. And when we think about niche markets and how cheap it is now to make these devices, you can look at niche markets now. You can look at business, you can look at photography, you can look at music making, you can make devices. Then you can create a small ecosystem. So there are some really good opportunities. If Migo just wants to focus on, for example, children, then it has a chance. It doesn't have to do the wide range of iOS and Android. So there's room for all, and it's all about customer choice.
Now, when we're looking at the iOS operating system, which in my opinion is basically a smartphone operating system, even though that Steve Jobs always claimed that Android is a smartphone operating system and not ready for tablets. It's all about big icons, right? The multitasking over there is kind of, well, it's a crippled multitasking in my opinion, because just putting your apps into a kind of freeze mode.
Well managed, I think he calls it.
True that. We all made our experience in the last couple of months with the new Android OS with 3.0 Honeycomb. We played around with Tablet OS from RIM, in my opinion, a fantastic OS based on Unix. And we also played around with WebOS, an OS where I was absolutely surprised when they announced it like 3 years ago, or was it 2 years ago during CES. It was the vibe and the atmosphere and the developers community was just absolutely fantastic. If we compare these operating systems to an iOS right now, don't you think that this iOS, how it looks like right now, is a little bit outdated for a tablet form factor because we have more screen real estate over there? And to me, it looks like it's the same that they can also run on an iPad Nano.
Yes, there are two different strategies. The iOS has this closed system, which is not good in terms of choice, but in terms of the operating system and the device and the applications. It is good because it's really defined, so it is easier to develop an application for iOS and have it consistent. So this is one strategy, and I'm not saying which is better, but this is the one way. The other way, the open system with Android, everybody can develop it, but then you have different versions of it, right? You have different, so they are more open, but then also the developer, from the developer perspective, is more difficult to really have an application across all the systems. So these are the two basic, and then all the others are a little bit in between, or more this side or that side. But that's the point. But there is no, in my point of view, no system that I would say, okay, this is the best, or this is worse, or this is, you know. So we support all of them, in fact.
Yeah, I think generally when you look at the tablet market, you can see it from the PC manufacturers coming down in screen size, so to speak. They don't have any expertise in operating systems. They traditionally relied on Microsoft. And then there is the mobile phone companies coming up with their screens. And they are not used to so much space. So basically, when you scale up your smartphone operating system, then what happens is you have a big iPhone and you have more icons on your screen, but you're not really changing the paradigm as the tablet is changing the paradigm in the sense that you have a big touchscreen at any time with you. And using this opportunity for the user, because it's your personal device, but it's more a full-time computer, so to speak. Nobody is using it right now, this new kind of paradigm. Neither Android nor iOS. That's my opinion.
Steve, you've been testing devices from like 3 or 4 inch up to 10 inch or 12, 13, 14 inch for ages. So what's your take on this?
So, I mean, you said that iOS wasn't, the look and feel of it wasn't conducive to a tablet form factor, right? I don't think I'd argue against that a bit, because I tend to be using an app. The UI is the stepping stone to the app. And interestingly, none of these mobile operating systems have multitasking UIs yet. There's a multitasking hardware and a multitasking core in the software, but the UI, you can't put two different applications next to each other. So you're still in this situation where you have one application at a time. Despite the other application running in the background, you still have to flip over to it. Doesn't matter if it's running or not. So this is kind of interesting when we talk about the paradigm of smartphone user interfaces and the paradigm of desktop. This still hasn't been crossed over yet by mobile operating systems. I think it will, and I think developments in iOS and Honeycomb will enable this desktop. This is why I'm very positive about smart books and that sort of stuff going forward in productivity, because I think that will happen. That's the next step. In fact, that's the next step for tablets, the multitasking user interface.
Well, don't you think that the way Google is using their widgets on Android is already a step into the right direction? Well, Jacob K is going to show you some other
Yeah, I think so. Because right now, we already, on Android 2.1 or whatever, we can use widgets, which means we run full applications on the desktop. So here you can see Twitter app on the desktop, and it's full Twitter app running as a widget. So I can reply, send message, scroll the tweets here straight from the desktop without opening any apps, and it's always there if I want to. So with Android you can do this kind of stuff. Same my calendar, I can see my next appointments there. I believe in widgets, I believe in interacting on tablets so that you have small apps on your desktop running all the time. So when you open the device with one glance, you can see what's happening in your world. And then going further with a more rich application. So in that sense, I think even Android 2 is already more tablet operating system than iOS. Of course, iOS has way better tablet apps today. Not maybe tomorrow, but today, yes. But for 7-inch device especially, I'm really happy with the way that Android has been building.
Well, Steve Jobs gave us some numbers yesterday. He said, okay, right now we have 65,000 apps in our app store that were made for the iPad. But he was comparing this to Honeycomb, saying they have 100 Honeycomb apps. Well, of course, they can't have like a couple of thousand, because that operating system just got introduced to the market. And when we were switching back a year ago, when they introduced the first iPad, I think they also only had a couple of hundreds or so apps in there. But of course, they were compatible with the iPhone apps. So let's talk about a different operating system. Let's say not operating system, but let's go back to the very beginning of this panel when we're talking about Microsoft. And that Bill Gates had this famous quote. Well, he had a couple of famous quotes. I think he said like 20 years ago that OS 2 is going to be the platform for the 90s, and we also know that this wasn't true at all. So 10 years ago, he said, okay, tablet PCs are going to be the next big platform, the next big thing. And now it seems that Microsoft completely lost the market. When we're taking a look at the big announcement they made 2 weeks ago with this partnership with Nokia, and saying we are going to adopt now Windows Phone 7, that also tells us that Nokia doesn't really have a strategy for the tablets at all. Or do you guys have any idea if we can expect a Nokia tablet? And the second question would be, do you think that Microsoft will come out with a customized UI for Windows platform?
Yeah, Microsoft actually released Windows 7 Compact yesterday or day before yesterday for tablet use too. So have you seen any tablets Windows 7 Compact? No one wants it.
Great opportunities for Silverlight developers, apparently.
Yeah. So there's one. Yeah. No, the Windows 7 Compact. Oh, cool. There is one. That's cool. But yeah, it's not mainstream, that's for sure. With Nokia, I believe we will see one tablet with Migo maybe someday. But I don't see right now current situation with Microsoft really doing anything on mainstream. I hope they will build Windows 8 from ground up also as a tablet OS, but that will take time. So right now they're losing the battle for sure. But then again, do they need to win this battle because they are all over our desktops and laptops? Because I don't see tablet replacing my PC right now. I don't see that happening.
Robin, what do you think about this announcement?
I think it's quite interesting when you look at the market right now, because Microsoft announced that they will move to ARM at CES, and then basically the marriage between Intel and Nokia got divorced in Barcelona. I was really surprised.
Just after a year.
Yeah, after a year. Yeah, usually it takes 7 years. And
They have a couple of other marriages going on, I think, though. That was only the Migo marriage. I mean, I have to be clear about that. It was only the Migo marriage that broke up. I think they're still cooperating on all sorts of wireless and cellular.
And my question is, now we have a couple of companies that don't have a tablet story now. Because Nokia had Migo, I think it was a promising thing for the tablets. Now the support, we don't know how the support for Migo will go, but clearly Intel is left alone. Now Intel has x86 Android and Migo, but no real partnerships. So I'm really interested in seeing what the future plans for the non-tablet players are. You have HP, you have RIM with the playbook, and you have Apple and Android. But the other big boys, they don't even have a story right now.
That's a pretty good transition. Go ahead.
Well, this announcement shows again how dynamic the market is. I mean, 1 year ago they had different strategy, Symbian, Migo for tablets and smartphones, high-end smartphones. Now they announced the partnership. I think it's good for the market in general, because now we have the two top players, iOS and Android. So Windows could develop to one or not, but this is, for us, I think it's always good that this dynamics is there, and that there's more choice at the end for the end user, like we said before. So the more operating systems, the better for the market.
Well, it seems that, in my opinion, RIM and HP are trying to position their tablets more in an enterprise market or in a business and professional environment, which is a kind of traditional tablet market. When we're looking at the tablet PC, they're used for professionals and vertical markets. What's your take on the impact of tablets on the vertical markets, especially now with these new platforms? And if you see any impact on this market, if I would own a company, what would you suggest to do if I would like to equip my staff with new tablets or touchscreen form factors?
I would say it totally depends. Are you going to build the app yourself or use an X16 app? If you're going to build it, it's easier to go with Android, because you can just build it and install it. With Apple, it's a totally different story. If you are in top 500 companies, then you can install your own apps, but outside of that, you can't. So same question comes with the size. If you need smaller than 10 inch, you have to go Android or BlackBerry playbook, but not iPad. So I would really look into what you want to achieve, not look at the device first, look at the software. If the software is there, good, you pick that device. If the software is not and you have to do it from ground up, then I would suggest go to Android and do it that way. There are possibilities also with x86 Windows devices. There are a few pretty nice ones coming later this year, but again, the battery life there is different. So it really depends what you want to gain. Do you have an app? If not, what then? If you are web-based, then again, is this and this process supporting your functions on the web?
So it's all about the ecosystem and infrastructure, right, Steve?
Yeah, so when we look at the Android and iOS ecosystem and the cost of developing software on those platforms, it's pretty small compared to traditional, let's say, x86-based software. But then, on the other hand, there's also a different expectation for some of these software. There's small, basic apps that do one thing, whereas in the x86 in the Windows world, you expect a very rich, very robust application suite, not just an application. Take Office, for example. But when you look at the cost of some of the hardware now in the ARM world, and the cost of developing, specific software solutions, you have to look at that ARM, Android software development structure. You'd be silly not to.
Rami, what do you think about the BlackBerry strategy? We know that RIM is kind of struggling on the smartphone market, at least they're losing market share, even though that they are still raising their sales. But now with the playbook, a brand new tablet operating system, I think you also know QNX for over 10 years right now. It's a pretty old company that they bought, and I think, in my opinion, it's one of the most advanced touchscreen OS I've ever seen in my life, and it's blazingly fast. So do you think the combination of the playbook plus future RIM smartphones is their way out of this valley of desperation where they're losing market share?
Yeah, I think RIM did actually two very smart moves. One was the acquisition of QNX, which is a well-established operating system used in cars, security things and so on, which is the most robust operating system that I know personally. And the second thing was they acquired that design company in Denmark, what is it called? Tribal, the TAT. And they are very talented. They did many things on the Android UI actually, which is interesting. And so now they have a really nice operating system plus really talented design guys. And I think these two smart moves, if they do it right, then their shift has to be to come from the business and go into the consumer market and merge that. Because my feeling is just having the business side may not allow them to survive. When you compare that to Dell and HP, there are certainly companies that are sort of consumer plus business, and they will have good stories to tell with the web OS as well as Android on Dell side. And certainly RIM has to copy that somehow.
It's back to the chassis again, isn't it? It's back to building the core hardware, software, and services infrastructure that allows you to go to any market at any time.
Well, Hamid, let's talk a little bit about future development. You guys had some announcement 2 weeks ago during Mobile World Congress. Well, first of all, you've been showing off your new dual-core Snapdragon, which is also in the HP touchpad. And then you also announced the quad-core Snapdragon. So when we're just looking into the future, like 12 months ahead of us right now, what do you think how a future tablet will look like from a Qualcomm perspective?
Well, I think that the demand for higher bandwidth, higher data rates will increase as it has been in the last 2 years. We will see new applications, new use cases, augmented reality, 3D, where you require really processing power. And at the same time, you need devices that are power efficient, that don't use that much of battery life. And that's what Qualcomm is working on, and I think this is our strength, to really integrate all these things together. So in a year from now, I think that you will see even faster, faster devices, more applications. All other operating systems will also have more applications, that the stores will grow. and this is a good thing for the consumer. As we said before, for the consumer it doesn't matter. He wants to use the best service and have the best choice out of these technologies. But the development is clearly there. But we have just to be careful in one thing, that from the application provider process, the applications, that I think the developer should also think a little bit about to making the application a little bit more efficient, because right now they don't have incentive at all to make it efficient. So because the bandwidth at the end is limited, and we work very hard to make it to decrease the cost of bit and increase the data rate. But it's also important that for the whole ecosystem that the developers are developing efficient algorithms, like in the past we had with Commodore. The memory size was limited, and you saw very, very good applications despite the memory size. So this would be good also for the industry as well.
Steve, what about you, and especially from an x86 perspective, something that is pretty much missing on the market so far, even though we have a couple of Windows tablets, we have a couple of Intel Atom ones, while Oak Trail is starting to ship, and the future, or even more stone for smartphones, is already in the pipeline and will ship this year. Can you see from your perspective if x86 has a chance on the mobile market against this huge army of ARM tablets?
Of course it has a chance. The question is, has it got a good enough chance to be a success? The point is, I think that Intel have to move into that category. They have to succeed there, and they're a very big company. There'll be a lot of money behind it. It might not be with Morristown, it might not be with Medfield, and it might not be with MeeGo. It could be, as we know, they're working on Android for x86. It could be the next gen after Medfield. I think it will happen. Going back to your question, what will a tablet look like in 2 years? It actually won't look much different. And we're now talking about CPU architectures and form factors. That there won't be much difference there. They'll get more powerful, of course. No major changes, though. It's all about the software, and I think it's the usage cases that will change. We will now learn a lot from the tablets, and the manufacturers will what they learn there, they'll apply that to other products as well. I'm sure we'll see cameras from Samsung with Android backs on them. I'm sure we'll see cars with Android Touch UIs in, and I'm sure we'll see more PMPs, more e-readers, and more devices that we haven't even thought of yet.
Okay, what about you?
Yeah, I think really that in the future more and more normal stuff we use at home when we move and so on will include touch interface, that's for sure. So tablets are going mainstream also on other devices than tablets, but as a tablet form factor, well, it cannot change much. It's a screen, it's a tablet. So rollable screens and stuff like that, it's not going to happen.
How many times have you written about a new tablet PC and the first comment is iPad copy?
Yeah. There's not many ways to do a tablet, so as a design. Small things, of course, are different, but really rollable screens, holograms and stuff like that, it's not going to happen next year. So I would say in my back pocket will be 7-inch tablet, looking maybe thinner than this, maybe different brand, but pretty much the same thing, doing the same stuff. Maybe faster, maybe longer.
Before I'm asking you guys the final question, which will be which tablet you're going to buy next, so you can already think about it, I just would like to let the audience know that in about 12 months, we are going to carry tablets and even smartphones that are on the same performance level as a PlayStation 3. And we will have this in our pocket. So this is going to change the market so radically, and also in the way of what kind of ecosystems we're creating around this, what kind of software we're using on it, and of course the user scenarios. Because right now the first computer that the 12, 13-year-old kids are getting is going to be a smartphone. And they already have the same performance as a desktop PC like 7 or 8 years ago. So final question, next tablet you're going to buy, is it running a Qualcomm Snapdragon platform?
Well, yes,
You only have one choice, right?
I already have many of them already, so probably the HP I would buy. WebOS to try out this operating system as well.
Yeah, fantastic on this.
Not only because of the chip, but also because to see really how the operating system works.
No, it's really good. Ramin, what about you?
I'm really looking forward to the Motorola soon. I'm gonna buy a couple of those.
We're gonna buy one
US.
next week, right?
Yeah, exactly. In the US, I would love to compare it to the 10-inch from Samsung, but Samsung is not available right now. So
Right.
this is the cutting edge in hardware right now to me.
Steve.
I just saw a waterproof Android tablet in the Planet Reseller area. I've got some uses for that. That's the one I'm buying next.
Check
You see a kid?
How old is your kid?
No, he's going to bath with it. We know that. so I'm thinking HTC Flyer or Believe X7, or as a mini tablet. If I can lose 7-inch, I'm digging the Samsung Galaxy S2, especially as I heard that they will do the Tegra 2 one.
The 5-inch one?
No,
Not so-
4.3.
Oh,
As a phone and
the
tablet,
phone.
like a mini
Right.
tablet, yeah. But they actually announced that they will do Tegra 2 version now, so maybe. But yeah, actually I know I'm getting this X7 anyway, so maybe I'm not buying that.
For research purposes, I'd definitely go with the WebOS as well.
Yeah. Or maybe we get the HTC.
WebOS. Sorry, I keep
From
getting told
Qualcomm.
off for saying WebOS. It's WebOS. I'm sorry.
Well, actually, I have to buy them all. I think I'm going to get the new iPad next week and the Zoom just to compare them with each other, because right now these are the two dual-core tablets. They're going to be available this month. It's going to be interesting, but I totally agree with you. I think the HP Touchpad WebOS is a fantastic operating system, especially when we're talking about synergies between the different devices they have in the WebOS ecosystem, the way you can share data and information with the smartphone and the tablet. And I still think that the RIM Playbook is also worth a look just for the operating system and the performance of it. Well, thank you so much, guys. JKK from JKK Mobile, Steve from carrypad.com, Ramin from PTPT and Hamid from Qualcomm. I'm Sascha from networknews.com. Vielen Dank fürs Zuhören.